At first glance, this looks like an ordinary park in downtown Montreal. But beneath this quiet square lies a forgotten cemetery and the mass graves of a deadly epidemic. When some coffins were opened years later, they revealed something terrifying: scratches from the inside. People were buried so quickly here, some of them were buried alive. The disaster began on June the 9th, 1832, when a steamboat called the Voyageur arrived at the port of Montreal, carrying immigrants from the British Isles. The newcomers managed to disembark and get away in a short time, except for one man, found lying on his back, and he was dying in agony. Soon it was confirmed the cholera had descended upon the city. The very next morning, an Irish couple who arrived on the same ship found dead in their hotel room. Many cases broke out among the locals that day. Within just 3 days, there were accumulated about 200 unburied bodies here at this exact place, which was at that time Saint-Antoine Cemetery. For a city of about 30,000 inhabitants, the scene of hundreds of piled up coffins was apocalyptic. The grave diggers were overwhelmed. They simply couldn't keep up with the number of the dead. Victims had to be buried quickly, often within 6 hours. The city's health commissioner, Dr. Robert Nelson, was under enormous pressure. At one point, he even considered burning the bodies, but citizens feared the smoke itself might spread the disease. At that time, the cholera was believed to spread through the air, so barrels of tar were burning throughout the city. A call was made at the church for the citizens to bring their tools and help the workers of the cemetery digging mass graves. These graves were so massive, about 10 feet wide, 8 feet deep, and up to 100 feet long. Some volunteers participated in digging those graves did not realize that they were digging their own. In few days, probably few hours, they would be buried in them. Death carts soon appeared in the streets day and night. Drivers called out through neighborhoods, asking if families had bodies to collect. Some carts carried 3 or 4 coffins stacked on top of each other. Sometimes there were no coffins at all, only bodies. Cholera struck with a terrifying speed. A person could go to bed feeling perfectly healthy. By midnight, he will be awakened by violent vomiting and extreme diarrhea. Within hours, he will be dead. Temporary field hospitals were quickly built around this place, known as sheds. They were at first overcrowded, poorly equipped, and filled with the dying. One newspaper of the time called them simply slaughterhouses. Medical students performed autopsies there in the open, desperately trying to understand the disease. Doctors were at loss what to do. They were trying anything, basically experimenting on the suffering patient. One practice in particular was unusual and very disturbing: infant baptism. Pregnant women who were near death begged the doctors to perform cesarean operations on them while they were still alive, so that their infants could be baptized and join them in heaven. Doctors cut open the dying mother's womb while a priest waited nearby to sprinkle the fetus with holy water. Dr. Nelson reported in his book that these operations were performed on 30 pregnant women. He also stated that almost all of the babies were already dead in their mothers' wombs. Record keeping during the pandemic was chaotic. Undertakers and grave diggers were overwhelmed, focused only on burying bodies as quickly as possible, and they were illiterate anyway. Because of this chaos, the exact number of victims buried in Saint-Antoine Cemetery may never be known. Dr. Nelson later estimated that more than 4,000 people may have died during the first cholera outbreak, about 13 to 15% of the city's population. Medical knowledge at that time was limited. Cholera victims sometimes became extremely cold and motionless, resembling a corpse. Someone could fall into a deep, coma-like state that mimics death. Under these conditions, people could be mistakenly declared dead. The lucky ones would wake up in their coffins just as they are waiting for burial. Others will gain consciousness when it is too late. In the rushed, sometimes careless burials in mass graves, due to the overwhelming death toll, Premature burials were a tragic reality. There were documented accounts and strong evidences that people were buried alive. Later, when parts of the cemetery were being cleared in 1855 and corpses were being transferred, some coffins were found damaged and scratched from the inside, suggesting desperate attempts to escape, such as the documented case of Miss Hervier. Years afterwards, Saint-Antoine Cemetery gained a dark reputation. Witnesses spoke of strange ghostly apparitions, mysterious mists, and the sound of distant prayers drifting through the night. In the late 19th century, the city began removing bodies to redevelop the land, but protests erupted, with many citizens believing that the dead should not be disturbed, and feared that uncovering the bodies would re-emerge the disease again. Eventually, the removals stopped, meaning thousands of bodies are still believed to lie beneath Dorchester Square today. Some believe the spirits of these victims never truly left. Even today, ghost hunters visit this place with their motion detectors, thermometers, and spirit boxes, searching for signs of the paranormal. Today, Dorchester Square is a busy public park surrounded by skyscrapers. Yet, beneath the grass and pathways lies the forgotten ground of Saint-Antoine Cemetery, the final resting place of tens of thousands of bodies. Just a few meters from this park, across the street, stands the Bell Center, the largest hockey arena in North America. Today, thousands of people gather there to watch hockey games, WWE events, and concerts from some of the most famous artists in the world. On many nights, the streets around this square are filled with cheering crowds, bright lights, and the sound of celebration. Yet only a short distance away, beneath the quiet paths and trees of this park, lies the remains of thousands of victims of the 1832 cholera pandemic. Most people who pass through this park today have no idea that this ground was once a cemetery, a place where mass graves were dug during one of the darkest moments in Montreal's history. Time has transformed this place into a peaceful square in the heart of a modern city, but the tragic story buried beneath it reminds us that the past is never as far away as it seems.